say what's happening. It's another installment of the Headspace with VJ. And we're here yet again. We're talking about another hot hip hop topic. Today we're talking about something very relevant to our age. We are in the age of SoundCloud. We are in the age of the skr generation, as it has been dubbed. We are in the age of the so-called mumble rap era. And what this has done is that it's introduced a kind of new dynamic where auto-tune is front and center in practically all of the songs. And it constitutes a major part of what modern day hip-hop is about. So Dakeza, for somebody who has followed the culture from its golden era, when the human voice in its organic sense constituted what rap is. To rap is to kind of speak rhythmically. It's poetry. It's metric tone. And now we're in an era where you can't distinguish between rappers and singers, which begs the question, is trap still rap? Is trap still hip-hop? Should we classify it differently? What's your take on this?
It kind of takes me back to there's this popular meme where it says, it's your so-called most real rappers who always share this meme. They'll be like, back in my days, when you saw someone rapping, it was always like, damn, I wish I could do that. Yeah, but now in this age, it's like when you see someone rapping, like, oh, I can do that.
Can you though?
I don't know, but that's what your real hip hop heads, your older
purists,
your purists like to say. So in a way, I like to agree with them, because the rhythmic, like rapping nowadays in the golden era, so-called golden era. Yes. You had people with punchlines and the way for vocal production, all these components that make you a great rapper. So now, and then at that time, now I'm done for no rap. And then I would watch Oabantu, African Raw Material, which is your cashless society. I'm like, hey. Yeah, but I don't think I can do this.
So, what you're coming to here is the skill element.
The skill element, yeah.
Because rapping is a skill, it should make the listener revere the rapper. Feel like, this is something not everybody can do. That it takes a level of skill, practice, and real passion to do this. And I think what you're saying is that today, you don't really hear that. Maybe you feel like...
No, I feel like that. So that's why I say, to a certain extent, I agree with your purists, so-called purists.
Okay.
Even though I could say, there are some mumble rappers that I like.
Now, but I think we should give this conversation a little bit more structure.
Yeah.
Because we're going to be using a lot of terms. Particularly, we're going to be using 3 terms that are going to be important throughout this whole conversation. We're going to be using the term hip-hop.
Yes.
We're going to be using the term rap.
Yes.
And we're going to be using the term trap. Now, I think it's important that before we kind of go into dissecting this, singing into what those 3 terms all indicate and signify, so that as the conversation moves forward, even the subscribers are moving with us and we have a sense of understanding what we're really talking about. Now, we must ask ourselves, what is hip-hop? What is rap? And what is trap? How do they relate to each other? So that we can really ask this question: is trap rap? Is trap hip-hop? Or is it a totally different phenomenon? Now, let's start with hip-hop. Now, my understanding, Dakeza, of hip-hop is, again, hip to the hop. Hip-hop is an attitude. Hip-hop is the attitude of taking the bare resources of what you have, styling them into culture, freedom, and expression. And this manifested itself in the form of graffiti, b-boying, DJing, and rap. And these constituted the culture and the aesthetic of what was called hip-hop. Now, hip-hop as a term refers to the culture in particular. However, It also refers to the kind of mentality, the attitude. To say I'm hip hop means that I'm able to walk into a space and innovate and improvise and do it with attitude and do it, one, with proud black or proud expression of who I am, and two, also an element of giving back to the community, because I think that those are elements or facets of hip hop that kind of separated from any other genre. Hip hop was community orientated. Hip hop was always, yes, about having fun and taking the blues of blackness and all the pain and kind of transferring that into joy, but also it was about giving tools to young people so that they can have things to do that would develop themselves in these urban constructs we found ourselves put in by kind of the white construct. So for me, when I talk about hip hop, I don't know from your perspective,
yeah,
I am thinking about an attitude that says I'm going in there for myself, but I'm also going in there to open doors for my people. I'm going in there to innovate. So with that kind of definition of hip hop, you can be hip hop in the corporate space. You understand?
Oh, yeah.
You can be hip hop in a construction site. You can be hip hop wherever you are. If your occupation is an engineer, there's hip hop way about doing your thing. So ultimately, from the culture, we are able to extract an attitude. Right? So Takeza, I don't know if you follow or agree or disagree with me.
No,
So
I agree.
Let's build this definition.
No, I agree, because you're taking something. It's by taking something that nobody thought you could make it cool. Yeah, we took it baseball caps and made them cool.
Turn them around.
Yeah,
Basketball
sneakers.
You know
we made them cool.
Hiking boots.
Yes. So
Exactly.
yeah, so it's
That's the hip hop.
so I'm with you on that.
Right. So hip hop basically is the culture of innovation, giving back, stepping in there, and kind of being proud of yourself. Now going into the second definition, rap. This is gonna be a very easy one.
Easy.
Rhythm and poetry, right? Using the human voice to convey rhythmically and poetically messages.
Yeah.
And messages that uncover the vulnerability and joys of the human experience, right? Now let's go into trap. Trap is a slang term, an African American slang term, which basically to relativize it to the South African context. You know, in the Eastern Cape, we have what you call
Ibase,
where you know the drug den, the crack house.
Yeah.
Basically, trap houses were spaces where drug dealers cooked, manufactured, and used and sold their dope. You know what I mean? So from these kind of spaces came a sound, particularly in the south of America. We're talking places like Atlanta, New Orleans, Texas, and those areas. There came a kind of a musical influence inspired by the hip hop again.
Yes.
And this hip hop, the way that rappers were beginning to express themselves in the South, came with styles which were somewhat different. They were experimenting with auto-tune, which New York rappers were not experimenting with back then. They were experimenting with different drum patterns. So you have early Southern hip hop producers, Abafana No Manny Fresh, kind of changing the typical boom bap and moving to a more high-pitched and high-paced and faster sporadic kind of rhythm, which kind of was more danceable, which brought hip-hop more into the clubs. And this ushered in the beginning of what they termed as a new sound, and they called it trap, kind of paying homage to the fact that this is music that's made by drug dealers but also reflects that street culture, because you can't talk hip-hop without talking the history of drugs, because in these neighborhoods you have rampant drug problems, which we know. We're not going to get into the politics of whiteness and Yongelando, that drugs and hip-hop always lived in close proximity with each other. Rappers have been rapping about drugs from the early beginning, and they still do, because we still have the problem around us. We still have people using drugs, one as a tool to flourish, but also two as a tool to survive. So, like it or not, there's an inseparable bond between drugs and hip-hop. and I think it's indicative of where trap went as a sound. But now the interesting thing, yo, is that beginning with artists like the T.I.'s and the Gucci Mane, you could still practically say these were rappers.
Yeah.
They were using their voice in a spoken word art format. They were not singing. But now something...
Which is actually rhythm and poetry.
Yeah,
Rapping, yeah.
something interesting happened in the mid-2000s where the rush of auto-tune through people like T-Pain made it so popular to kind of use as a tool that it filtered into the way that rappers made music, to the point where using the human voice without auto-tune today is a very rare thing. Now we are here to ask the question, if your voice is not leading the song, if it's being assisted by some kind of melodic tool, and if you are now resorting to conveying your voice melodically, which pretty much that's the definition of singing, is conveying your voice melodically, are you still rapping? Takis?
To me, I don't rap. Nah, you're not rapping.
Takeza is saying, I'll rap.
No, I'll rap.
That's you.
So your OT Pain and then came your Futures, man.
Yeah.
I don't consider them as rappers.
Okay.
Because I mean they popularized what we call most mumble rap, which is it's mumble. You don't hear what they say. So the song might be the song title might say Steve Biko, but we're now busy. But I'm not saying you must rap about Steve Biko, but okay, tell us something.
Coming across like an old head now, okay? Coming across like an old, but on that, I feel you, because it's indicative of where we are. It's become so
but before you, I wanted to make this point though. With the sound of trap, like you were talking about the producers, breaking the patterns of your particular the drum patterns, the drums, and the whole soundscape. What I figure is this: the level of beat making went to a point where rapper was like, you know what, this is a thing that I'm just gonna vibe to.
Okay.
That's what I saw. Like, okay, the level of producing beats, it was to a point where like, hey, I don't need to rap on this. People will still vibe to it. So on my understanding, I thought they did. That's why people thought, okay, let me mumble rap on this. So
you feel like the production might have led the artist to a point where they decided to kind of go the melodic route instead of the poetic route.
Yes.
Okay, interesting take. Interesting take. And I think what you were saying about the
Steve Biko.
the mumble rap example is that I feel like that's a reflection of, more than anything, how far we've gone outside of the scope of rap.
Yes.
Because when you rap, clarity is important, but in trap it isn't, because what's important is the vibe. What's important is the atmosphere. These artists, great artists, matter of fact, and I want to state this is not an episode kind of denigrating trap artists.
No, we're not fighting.
Trap artists have a skill set that we shouldn't undermine. I'm not one of those people who thinks that it's easy to do. I think we undermine things that sound simple, but when we try them, we realize that it's not as simple as we thought. And I think that there are things that feel and look and sound simple, but when you approach them, you realize that those guys approach simplicity with an artistic flair that you could never imitate. You just have it or you don't, because it's a certain kind of accent, it's a certain kind of street mentality, it's a certain kind of thinking that can go into the booth and deliver something like what a Future, what a Travis Scott, what a Playboy Cardi, what a Lil Uzi Vert, and many other acts, Lil Durk can do. And I think there's something that rappers can learn from trappers, but I do also think that there is a difference. I think once we step into the scope of conveying the voice melodically, we're no longer rapping.
No longer.
And I have a huge problem with Future being nominated
for hip-hop best
for either best hip-hop or best
rap.
Now it's arguable, because remember what we said hip-hop was: the mentality of innovating, the mentality of going back and giving the people something empowering. Now one would argue Future has empowered people in a kind of way. One would argue that the attitude of hip-hop is still conveyed in what Future does. If you know anything about Future's history, he was a member of the infamous Dungeon family in the South. The same crew that Outkast came out of. The same crew that the Goody Mob came out of. So Future was made by hip-hop.
Yeah.
And if you listen to early Future songs, Future was very much fundamentally what you would call a rapper. But he decided to switch the style up and start singing melodically to auto-tune in rhythmic styles that are very much influenced by rap. And now this is where the contention begins. He's influenced by rap. He comes from rap. He was rap. He still probably considers himself as a rapper. I know he called himself a rapper plenty of times. But here's where the debate lies: is if Future is a rapper, then
it's opening a lot of doors.
If Future is a rapper, then Ed Sheeran is a rapper. You know? If and who else? Give me an example of somebody who sings but does it in a way that's rhythmic and poetic.
Taking it to South Africa, because this is South African. We are South African. It's the same thing as claiming who's Java.
Yes.
Yeah, we claim who's Java, but is Java a rapper?
See, that's the debate. I don't think Java's a rapper.
I also don't.
Java's influenced clearly by Maskandi. Java is clearly influenced by rap music. He took the two and he created something unique. But when Java is singing, I do not associate that with rap. For me, I feel like here's the fundamentalist point, or that makes this argument important. Singing and rapping are distinguished for a reason. So you can have singers who are poetic. You can have singers whose metric and whose writing style shows the level of sophistication, shows the level of complexity that really feels like a rapper. But nonetheless, they are singing. So I really feel that the problematic aspect is when we have acts that are now clearly stepping into the realm of singing, being nominated for best rap. Right? I could argue, and here's where my stance is on this: Future, Java, Saudi, MT, Blackie, and Zuki Cookdope, and all of the other new wave of artists are definitely a new wave of hip hop. And this is what makes these definitions
new wave of hip hop.
Yeah, this is what makes these definitions that we classified in the beginning so important. They are hip hop because their mentality is still that same attitude. Remember, we said hip hop is the culture, but hip hop is the attitude as well. And I definitely feel like there's something hip hop about the way Blackie represents himself. You know, there's something hip hop about the way MT represents himself. However, just like hip hop has elements, graffiti, you know, the DJing, the b-boy,
and rap,
I feel like you can be a singer and be hip hop about it. And my issue is calling yourself a rapper. You can definitely say you are representing hip hop, but rapping is a totally different art form. I don't know how you feel about this, Takis. I feel like we interchange the terms hip hop and rap to a point where we think they are the same things. I think even commercial entities confuse the two, because one moment somebody is being called a hip hop artist, and then one moment they are being called a rap artist. Remember what we've said in previous episodes: rap predates hip hop.
Yeah.
So you can have rap in the context of anything. Rap music is when somebody is using the power of their own voice in a way that is not melodic, in a way that is channeling into their tonal and structural skill. And I think that fundamentally constitutes rap. And the moment you start shifting your voice and transmitting melodically, what you are doing is something else. It cannot be considered rap. It's singing. You know? So I have a question for you, Takeza, in getting to the ultimate answer of is rap trap and is rap hip hop. Do you think you can, is there such a thing as a hip hop singer?
Is there?
Many people called Mary J. Blige.
Mary J. Blige. I was gonna go there.
The hip hop and R&B.
Yeah.
Right.
I was gonna go there. So, and you could say even the guys who are doing what you call is a trap soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, trap soul. Look, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, trappers are influenced by hip hop.
Yes.
Right. So you could call them hip hop, but you cannot call them rappers. But in the same in the same argument, most of these artists started out as rappers, you know, and going back to us having an episode where we put that that a Kwaito artist is the GOAT.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Wouldn't you say? As much as I don't consider them as rappers, but they're part of hip hop.
Definitely.
Definitely.
I agree with you. And that's why it was important to have these three definitions. Is trap hip hop? I would say yes.
Okay.
Is trap rap? I'd say no. So I think now this creates a new debate, a new conversation that I definitely want our subscribers to engage us on.
Yeah.
And the debate is really what defines hip hop and what defines rap, and how do those things really relate to each other. Because again, the art form of rapping predates hip hop, but the hip hop culture has evolved over time. To kind of bring it together, in conclusion, Takeza, is trap hip hop?
Trap is hip hop, but trap is not rap.
Exactly.
So if you had these categories, okay, best rap, obviously I'm gonna feel a certain way if you put a Blackie there and he wins an award being the best rapper, or being in a top 5 best rappers of SA or something like that. I would feel it some type of way. But hip hop, yeah, because they are influenced by hip hop and they are hip. They took something and made it hip, you know.
No doubt.
Yeah, I don't know about you.
I think the final conclusion for me is we need to respect the term rap. We need to respect the term hip hop and not confuse the two, and define it properly, and understand that if we're putting out nominations, if we're labeling people, if we're defining people, it's very important that we define them correctly so that we don't assign things to them that they're not doing. So stop calling singers rappers, but also acknowledge the hip hop in everybody. Peace.